and welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, you have come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and as always, plenty of entertainment. I am soaking up the warm sunshine in Lanzarote this week away with my mum and sister for our annual trip to the island. We started doing this a few years ago to coincide with my dad's anniversary. He passed away 22 years ago this week. It's hard to believe, really. Sometimes it feels like it was an age ago, and other times as if it happened yesterday. So much has happened since then. It's crazy to think what 26-year-old me would think of 47-year-old me now, and the journey I've been on since he passed. I often wonder what he would have thought of how my life moved into sport and presenting, which wasn't even on my radar when he was alive. It is lovely to get away for a week together and embrace some winter sunshine. It won't be long until my season of announcing adventures commence and the travel ramps up a notch or 10. And despite all the travel and what it may look like from the outside, there is very little time for downtime and simply just chilling in the sunshine, whether that's reading a book, lying by the pool, strolls to the coffee shop, or short splashes in the sea. I've always got one eye on the next event or planning travel and logistics for the next adventure on the microphone. So this week in the sun is a chance to recharge, chill out with the family and get ready for the season ahead. I've taken the full month of January off from announcing completely, which has been lovely. But I am looking forward to getting back on the microphone this coming Sunday for the Lifestyle Sports Dundalk Half Marathon and 10K. I'm also heading to Cork and Dublin next month for the Run the Night 5 mile events. If you fancy signing up, you can use the code TTS or TN26 to get €5 discount on race entry. There are only a limited number of discounts remaining, so make sure that you book in sooner than later on www.runthenight.ie. At the end of February, I'll be switching out the runners and leisure wear for high heels and an evening dress for the Galway Bay Rugby Ball, which is shaping up to be a great night. Now, did you set any New Year's resolutions for 2026? I didn't, but I did set a few goals, some small, some big, and some slightly bigger. One of them was to complete a 15k run whilst here in Lanzarote. My running has been quite consistent over the past few months. The hashtag Fit for Christmas challenge kept me on track and on my toes in December. Literally. And so the 15k run wasn't too daunting a task. Nevertheless, it was my longest run since Ironman 70.3 Majorca in 2024. So I was just a little bit apprehensive about the distance. I was thrilled to hit the target on Sunday morning. Of course, totes overachieved before breakfast. And now that I've hit my running target, it is time to get some miles on the bike banked, as I've another target up my sleeve to be achieved in the coming weeks. I also have one eye on the Tribesman Triathlon in June. I took part in it last year and I loved it. I'm hoping to be home in Galway for the event this year again. It's a super race. I know I am biased, but it really is. And it's also a National Series event this year. Swim in the River Corrib, a downstream 750 metres-ish swim, a flat and fast 20k bike and a lovely 5k trail run around the university. If you fancy making the trip west this year for race day on June 14th, then you can use the code TTS2026 on www.tribesman.ie for a €5 discount. And if coming to Galway really is on your list of things to do this year, why not take on one of the many races at Lough Cutra Castle at the end of May? Triathlon, duathlon, aquathlon, aquabike. There are a host of multisport races as well as the standalone swimming or running events. Check them out on www.castleraceseries.com and use the code 26UK TTS referral to get 20% discount on race entry. And that code can also be used to enter any of the Castle Race Series events in the UK, so be sure to check them out too. Oh, and before I forget, a huge well done to everyone who participated in the hashtag Fit for Christmas challenge. Over 400 people signed up for the December challenge, and some of our lucky participants were selected as winners of prizes from Santa's Sleigh. Huge thanks as well to our partners for their generous sponsorship of the prizes and for keeping our participants moving and motivated supported throughout one of the busiest months of 2025. Huge thanks to Nuasan, Bear Events, Run the Night Series, Castle Race Series, Loch Cutra Castle Triathlon, Pikeman Triathlon and Feisty Triathlon. And Feisty Triathlon have given us a discount code to share with you, our podcast listeners. You can get 25% off any Feisty merchandise using the code Feisty25 on the Feisty Triathlon website. And of course, as always, our friends from Nuasan continue to support the podcast with 15% discount available online at www.nuasan.ie. You can use the code TTS15 to avail of that discount, so be sure to check them out. Now that all the discounts are shared, it's time to hear from this month's guests, who are very familiar names in endurance sport here in Ireland. Rob Cummins and Aisling Coppinger, who share with us an honest and inspiring conversation about life, love and longevity in sport. Owners of Wheelworx, they are familiar faces at triathlon and multisport events as both athletes and event support. In this episode, Rob and Aisling reflect on their individual paths into triathlon, from early beginnings as novices to competing on the world stage. Rob shares his long journey through Ironman racing, including early doubts and how his training approach has evolved over time, whilst Aisling shares insight into her transition from running into triathlon and the challenge of overcoming a deep fear of open water swimming. A key focus of this episode is their 2025 season, where they embraced a Whirlwind World Championship tour that saw them race and support each other at the IRONMAN World Championship in Nice, where Rob raced, in Kona, where Aisling raced, and in Marbella, with both of them racing the Ironman 70.3 World Championship, where their season culminated in the Costa del Sol. They offer insight into the demands of each event, from race conditions and strategy to the emotional impact of lining up in Kona. Both Aisling and Rob reflect on what these experiences mean to them beyond results, highlighting gratitude, perspective, enjoyment, and the journey to the start and finish line of each race they embraced. The conversation also explores how they balance commitment to their training with running a successful and busy business, whilst maintaining a strong personal relationship. Training together, supporting each other through setbacks, and simplifying routines have become central to their approach. This is a super chat with Aisling and Rob, with reflections on what triathlon has given them and how they look ahead to future races with curiosity rather than pressure, emphasising teamwork, resilience and the importance of enjoying the journey. This renewed energy and perspective on racing, a far cry from the years of Chasing Kona, as detailed in Rob's book published almost a decade ago. Now, go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. We've got two stalwarts of triathlon from Ireland in the hot seat for the very first edition of the Talking Sport podcast for 2026. Rob and Aisling, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Joanne. All good? Yeah.
Thanks very much, Joanne. It's great to be here.
The last time I saw you guys was Marbella.
Yeah, that's right. I saw you from afar on the finish line, but I wasn't chatting to you.
Yeah.
So the weather's a little bit colder here than it was in Marbella back in November.
Yeah, or Kona in October.
Or
a little
France,
colder.
or
Yeah,
France
yeah.
in September. So you had plenty of holidays last year is what you're trying to tell me.
We did, yeah. We had a few.
We had a World Champs tour.
Yeah.
A World Championship tour. You did race Nice, Rob, and then you went to Kona, Aisling, and then you both went to Marbella. And so I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. But before we talk about all of that, the build up, the racing and the excitement and the experience, tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves. And I don't know where we start. Rob, do we start with you? Did you drag Aisling into triathlon or did she come willingly?
Well, I was a triathlete for a couple of years at a really beginner's level, very basic entry level triathlete for a couple of years before I met Ash, and she was a runner. We both had similar stories. We'd been smokers and unhealthy, and I'd never done any sport, whereas Ash had done some running and sports in school. I took up triathlon in 2003, raced sort of national sprint and Olympic and up to half Ironman, very much as a beginner. First 16 races I did breaststroke. I couldn't swim at all, really. First race I would have been second last out of the water. I was racing bikes at the time. I'd been racing on bikes for a couple of years, and I think I got off the bike in about 5th or 6th or 7th or something, and then everybody just ran straight past me again, and I just barely broke 3 hours for an Olympic distance. But I loved the sport, absolutely fell in love with it. I'd met Ash when I had just joined Tala Running Club, and I was trying to learn how to run a bit better than I had been. And I met Ash when I was out with the club, and over the next couple of months, she helped me towards my first marathon and asked me would I give her some help getting ready for her first Ironman a couple of months later. Her first triathlon, which just happened to be Ironman UK. And then we spent a couple of years where I kept Ash company when she was doing runs, and she kept me company when I was doing triathlon. And I think we've sort of more or less ended up at the triathlon thing the last couple of years anyway.
So did you guys not know each other before you took up triathlon? So there's a whole like love story around this as well, is there?
Yeah, I suppose we'd both had previous marriages and got together. We both separated the same year, and we knew each other through the club, and we got together through the training really and the racing, and we're similar enough in that we both had kids quite young. So I'm 53, Ash is similar-ish age. I won't say the number, you're not allowed. We're both 50 to 54 age group.
Been the older one.
Oh, you just aged up. Oh yeah, okay, since the 1st of January. So we're both similar age, but our kids were sort of grown up, and it means that I suppose we have more freedom than a lot of people our age whose kids would be teenage years and they'd have schools and college and sports and all that sort of stuff going on. So we have a lot more freedom now than we might have had sort of in our early 20s when our kids were young. So we've sort of been at the sport pretty continuously in some form since we got together back in 2008, either drifting in and out of triathlon or more towards running, or we did some bike racing and gravel racing 2 years ago. So we're always involved in the sport at some level, whether it's coffee rides and meeting mates for runs or racing. We sort of drift in and out of seriousness, I suppose.
So the question I'm dying to ask is, who asked who out, and where did you go on your first date? Was it a run or a cycle?
I was definitely running. I don't bike outdoors, so not really. No, it's definitely running.
Well, there was the 8-hour bike ride.
It didn't. Well, that was training, I suppose, for the first Ironman. Yeah, but it wouldn't have been the first date.
No,
I don't think we ever had a date, did we? We just kept
not
running.
really. No, yeah. It was mostly when I suppose we just sort of drifted into it, and I think we knew pretty quickly that we wanted to be together, and from the start, I think we both knew we sort of ultimately wanted to be together permanently, get married and stuff like that. And I think we were both decided on that really from the minute we started talking about being together. We sort of thought, yeah, listen, I'm not in this to see how it works out for a month or two. I know what I want, and Ash seemed to be the same. So we were of a like mind from the start. I suppose when you're coming into a second relationship after being married and coming through that, you probably have, this is funny conversation for a triathlon podcast, but you probably have, I remember thinking at the time that you sort of know what you want. Whereas when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, you don't necessarily, I certainly didn't know. Like I see some of these triathletes coming through now, these elites and the elite sport people, and it's like they really have their shit together in their 20s. Sorry, really, of course. But I didn't have, and I think by the time you're in your mid to late 30s, for me anyway, I knew what I wanted out of life and I knew what I didn't want. And Ash was pretty much everything that I wanted. We did everything together. We trained together. We were interested in the same thing. We spent all our spare time together. We spent all our time together because we started working together quite quickly as well. So it was an easy decision for me to make.
Yeah, it's a fabulous story, really, how the sport brought you together. I mean, if you were still both smoking very heavily and living the life that you were living prior to the sport, you may never have met. So, it's kind of like almost like a triathlon love story, really. So, it's kind of gone in one direction where the plans were in the other direction. So, Aisling, you were training for your first Ironman when you met Rob. It's nearly 20 years ago, 2008 when you guys met. So how did you end up in running? Were you sporty as a kid? Rob mentioned he wasn't sporty, but where did that love for endurance sport come from?
I did run as a child, young, like in school and that, and did really loved it, but as you get older and other things take over your life, I didn't get back into running until I was in my mid-30s, maybe. But I went straight to marathons and ultras and stuff. I just immediately went into the longer days out and had done a few ultra distance events, let's say. And I'd probably seen YouTube videos of Ironman stuff. And Ironman back then was different than it is now. Like you could kind of probably enter one the week before if you really wanted. Like they were low key, if you know what I mean. I don't mean they were badly organized around. I just mean everything was quite low key. Like you could decide quite easily to do one. So I remember thinking, probably saw a video on YouTube and thought, oh, that looks like another ultra. It's just a long day out involving exercise, but I couldn't swim, but I just thought someone will teach me, or, it's something you can learn to do. It's just a skill. It's not anything that I kept thinking it's not something that I'd need fitness for, let's say. I just needed to learn the mechanics of it. This is my stupidity and ignorance of the whole thing. I thought someone will just teach me the way someone teaches you to drive. And then I didn't own a bike either, but I probably knew where to buy one. And like I remember going into Rob's shop and saying, I don't want that in colourful. It needs to be black. It needs to be understated. And I had all these conditions. And of course, that's exactly the opposite of what I actually left the shop with, which is a typical Rob situation. But so I just set about learning to swim. I had 4 months. Rob put me in touch with Peter Kern, and he taught me how to swim from scratch.
And she says she doesn't know how to swim. She asked me to give her some tips. So I met her at the pool and she got in and I said, okay, off you go. And she swam, took about 4 strokes and stopped and stood up and looked back at me. And I went, what you stop for? And she goes, that's it. And I went, what do you mean that's it? And she goes, that's as far as I can go. And I was like, this is above my pay grade. So we put her in touch with a coach called Peter Kern.
I think I remember he said something like, I'll give you a 70% chance of getting through this. That was the first time I met him. So he's only seen me doggy paddle in a pool, not go near the deep end or anything like that. Just doggy paddle in the 4-foot water. And I was like, okay, where do we go from here? And he gave me a 70% chance. But me and my stupidity, I only thought I needed a 1% chance. Like I was like, that's done. We're all right now. And I think we had a goal that if I could swim 400 meters in 4 weeks, that would be the moment we could go, yeah, this is doable. So that's what we set about doing. And in 4 weeks, he had me swimming, 100 meters, 2, 3, and then 4. And then, we took it from there. So I had about 4 months, I think, to learn to swim and to get through the day itself. And like you mentioned, 8-hour bike rides, that's how long I had to spend out on the road, because that's how long it was taking me to get through the distance. I probably wasn't averaging 20k an hour. And the UK one I had entered, the UK Ironman, was in Sherborne. So it was mad hilly. And I knew it would be a long day out, but I knew once I got off the bike that the day was going to be great, that I'd love the run. And that's what happened. It was a long, hard day, but once I was running, I was flying and loving every minute of it, So it was a good experience. Yeah, I did get pretty sick after it though. And herein lies the thing of I moved away from triathlon because I got sick from the water afterwards. And just decided that taking a break from triathlon would be a good idea. But Rob had other ideas.
She had a really good day. So I thought, anybody enjoys it. Like I did my first Ironman the same year as Ash did. And I loved it. I was completely hooked. It's like, I just wanted to, keep on going with that. And in the middle of Ash's Ironman training, like she trained a little loaf off. Like it was 7 days a week, twice a day, as it is for most of us when you're sort of stuck into Ironman. But I remember her saying, like, if you broke her open like a stick of rock, there'd be a big M dot all the way through the middle of her. It's like Ironman was everything you thought about all day long. Everything you did revolved around what training was next, what training you just done, what was coming up tomorrow. And then she went and she had a fantastic day. She had a good swim and she had a good bike, and then she got off and she had the third fastest run of the day. Like it was only the 2 pro females, first and second, that beat her. So it's like, I thought, she had a great day. She loved it. So I bought her an Ironman entry for Christmas, which didn't go down all that well.
Tell us more.
I just didn't want to do another one. I wanted to go back to doing running, just to run all the time. Yeah. But we did a few more after that. All right.
And how did you get through the swim? So, because you were back at 400 meters, you had 4 months and the progression of the swim. How did you manage the swim on the day? Was it okay?
On the day, it was okay. It was one of those starts where you swim out to the start.
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous. Now, nervous to the point of feeling sick and vomiting and really nervous, like just didn't know how this was all going to go down. But it was one of those swims, you swim out to the start, and I'd forgotten to close my wetsuit. And I got in and started swimming, and I was freezing. I was freezing cold the whole way. But I got through it. I think it was one of those swims where it's a long and narrow kind of a river. So you went up and down. You didn't have to sight or anything. Do you know, it was narrow. You just swam up and down twice, I think. And when I got out, I just was wrapped in sort of foil blankets for a while, and probably wasn't in any hurry. I was probably getting dressed and doing all these things. But no, it went okay on the day because I had spent the 4 months swimming 7 days a week. Like I literally swam all the time because it was the one thing that I knew. And even this year when I, decided to go to Kona, swimming was the one thing I had to really work on because there is no forgiveness in an open water swim with no wetsuit, So swimming's still the one thing that I have to do a lot of, or should do a lot of.
And was Kona on your mind back all those years ago? You said you got sick, you got the Ironman entry for Christmas, didn't really want to do it. Did you do that Ironman?
Yes, I did. Very, very badly.
Oh,
yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, I got sick afterwards. I had meningitis and leptospirosis and pneumonia and the whole lot. When you're completely stupid and ignorant, you think, I'll be sick for a couple of weeks and then I'll just bounce right back. So I went straight back to ultra running. I think within 6 months of the meningitis, I ran 100K on the road in a race, like complete stupidity because I wasn't well. I wasn't recovered at all. But you don't know when you're ignorant and a bit stupid. And I went to doctors going, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not as fast as I used to be and I'm not recovering. And they're like, well, you did have meningitis 6 months ago, so you probably need to just back off a bit. But backing off meant getting an Ironman entry for Christmas, and off we went to Switzerland. But it wasn't a great day, but I got through it. It just wasn't enjoyable.
And was Kona on the radar for you back then, Aisling?
I wouldn't have had any clue about it or Kona or what it was or anything like that, really.
Because Rob, you've raced in Kona on multiple occasions now at this stage, but how did your Ironman journey start then?
So I did my first one as a complete beginner. I think I did Ironman France, was my first race in 2008, and I finished somewhere, I think just outside of the top 1,000 with maybe 1,200 people in the race. Like I was slow, and I trained what I thought was training hard for an Ironman, the way most of us would when you don't know what you're doing for your first one. And the following year, I decided I was going to really train for one. So I did Ironman Switzerland with Ash, and I really trained what I thought was training hard. And I maybe broke the top 1,000. I got like 950th, and I sort of realized it's like, okay, you're just slow. Like that's where you are. You're I'd opened my first bike shop in 98, and we'd had that. And we were in a really small premises up to then. And when Ash got involved in the business around 08, 09, Ash came from a proper business background, and she really helped me drive it on because I wouldn't have had a clue. I was just, a little small bike shop. I didn't know how to grow the business like that. So we opened a big bike shop. We went from 700 square foot to 14,000 in the current shop. But that sort of took over our life for the next year. And we stayed active, and we'd still do something every day. We'd but you're talking going running for 30 or 40 minutes or getting on the bike for an hour. And then the following year, Ironman was still in my head. I was completely obsessed with it. And I said to Ash at some stage, do you reckon I could ever qualify for Kona? Now, I couldn't barely break the top 1,000 in a race with 1,100 people the year before. And Ash's immediate response was, yeah, you can. Definitely. That's a great idea. Let's do it. So I decided, okay, to have someone like Ash who was an elite runner and was really successful and, was winning races as a runner, to look at me and go, okay, I see something there. Yeah, you can do it. I took that as a really big positive. So I went off and started Googling things. And, the first thing you Google says the average Kona qualifier trains 30 hours a week. I'm like, Jesus, I'm doing like 6. And, the next guy says the average Kona qualifier does 20 hours a week. And I'm going, Okay, that sounds a bit more reasonable, but it's still a long way off what I'm doing. And then somebody else says they can do it at 15. And so I'm wondering how I'm going to break this 30-hour thing to Ash, because I can't see me doing it with anything other than the most extreme version, straight in the deep end would be the way I tend to do things. So I sort of said something to Ash, like, I was reading on the internet that, to get to Kona, you've got to do like 30 hours a week. But there's another guy says you can do it 20. So, I could have a go at doing that. And Ash's immediate response was like, would you not go and ask someone who knows what they're talking about instead of just Googling random people on the internet what they think, So we started talking to Peter Cairn, who's the coach that had helped Ash. And Peter had been a pro triathlete, and he's a brilliant coach. And he was doing a talk for us in the shop a couple of weeks later. And I pulled him aside afterwards and I asked him, would he coach me? Did he think I could get to Kona? And Peter's immediate response was, you can't get to Kona. It's like he'd seen me racing. He knew what I was doing, And I was really disappointed. And it's like, oh, well, Ash said I can. And I said, but do you know how to coach somebody to get them to Kona? And he goes, yeah, of course I do. And I said, okay, well, then give me that plan. I'll follow it. And if you break me, I'll take responsibility. And if I don't get there, well, listen, you get paid anyway. It's my waste of time, So I could see him, and Peter's German, and he's really matter of fact, and he's very German in the way he does things. There's no beating around the bush. He'll just come straight out and say what he's thinking. And you could see the eyes rolling in the back of his head, thinking this guy's an absolute idiot. I don't know where he thinks he's going to get to Kona. So he says, okay, I'll give you the plan. So the next week, bear in mind, I'd been doing about 6, 7, 8 hours a week. 8 hours a week was a big week for me back then. It was when I was Ironman training, but it was probably more like 6. And there was plenty of zeros in there as well, where I wouldn't do anything. And the first week with Peter, the first 8 days, I did 30 hours training. And I swear I thought he was trying to just prove a point. It's like, you can't do this. But he had me ride to a sprint triathlon. So it was 50K ride to the sprint triathlon, do the race, and then ride 50K home. And I had never come anywhere in anything that I'd ever done in my entire life. I'd never even seen a podium except for when I'd be finishing the bike, getting onto the run, and they'd be on the podium. That's the only time I'd ever seen it. And I won my age group and I was 3rd overall in this sprint race with 28 or 29 hours training done in the previous 8 days. So I thought, that's it. I figured it out. I know how to get fast. And of course, the next morning I couldn't get out of bed, And I spent the next 6 months up and down. I'd manage a couple of weeks training and I would be completely floored. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for days. I would hardly be able to function at all. And we raced some of the Irish National Series that year, and I was nowhere. I was, I wasn't breaking the top 30 or 40 in these races, and I'm looking to trying to get to Kona in a big international race. And I should really be winning the age group in these things. And I kept on following the plan as much as I could with Peter. We started working with him in April. We picked Ironman UK, which was in July. So we didn't have a whole lot of time. I had originally been looking at Florida, and he looked at me and went, like, you weigh 68 kilos soaking wet. You don't have enough power to cope in a flat race like Florida. We need somewhere with hills. Aside from the fact that you haven't got a chance of qualifying anywhere, but at least let's pick a race that you have, some sort of chance in. So we went to UK in July after a couple of pretty disastrous races, and I finished 26th of the age groupers, caught the back end of the male pros and the female pros, and missed qualifying by 2 minutes, 1 place. And like, it didn't matter that I didn't qualify. It's like, I was there. I could, 2 minutes over a 10-hour race is like, okay, I'm there. I'm a Kona person now. It doesn't matter that I haven't qualified. I know I can do it. I can do 2 minutes faster than this next year. So that was 2011. In 2012, we went back to the UK and I qualified on a roll down. And 2013, I had a straight qualify after a puncture and a mechanical. So that was sort of the Kona stuff. 2014, I ended up having back surgery. So I was out of the sport for a couple of years after that.
It's fascinating to listen back to, you're talking about how Peter's saying there's not a hope you're going to do it, and then you just defy him completely. How many Ironman races have you individually done?
I think you're about 10. I'm probably close to 20.
I must be 10 or thereabouts.
Yeah. I think I'm 19 or 20, and Ash is about half that, about 10, I'd say.
And if you look back at what Peter had you doing when you started out, realistically, when you look back to 2008, 2009, 10, 11, and you look at what you did maybe in 2023, 24, 25, has much changed? Were they 30-hour weeks to get to Nice, Kona and Marbella in 2025, or what's changed?
It couldn't have been more different. So I think the whole training, certainly training for Ironman, from what we saw last year, can be done very differently. So I would have thought, back when I did Kona the first and second time, it was volume. It was as many 5 and 6 hour bike rides as you can, and you're doing a 3 hour run at the weekend, and everything was long. And last year, we weren't actually training for an Ironman at all. We weren't trying to get to Kona. Ash had qualified for Marbella, and I thought I'd better get the finger out and go and try and qualify, because I'm going to be going one way or the other. So we picked Chattanooga. So we had 6 months of doing really specific 70.3 training. There was no long rides. There was no long runs. And it was all way harder, much more intervals, much harder training than I'd ever done before, and much shorter. The volume would have been less, except for the last month leading into Chattanooga. I was hitting 20 hours a week. But before that, January was maybe averaging 12, February was 14, March was 16, and then there was one big month before the race. We decided to do, both had a really good day in Chattanooga, and we were both buzzing, driving around on a bit of a road trip in the US, and had a rush of blood to the head and said, how about doing Ironman again? See what's available. And it was really looking at the Kona thing for Ash, because it was the last year of the women's only race. And we thought, it's a good chance to go, and, a great experience to go and do the women's only race. So we looked, and there was maybe only 2 races left, and the best option looked like being Vitoria-Gasteiz, but that was only 4 weeks later. So we had, I think from the time we entered, we had 4 weeks. So I did maybe 120, 130 and 150k ride once. I did 127k run, and that was with a lot of intervals in it. We did nothing long, nothing Ironman, nothing what I would have thought Ironman specific. And I've never been as afraid standing on the start line of an Ironman as I was. I was terrified. I was sick. I thought, I'm never doing this again. It's the worst experience of my life. And we started swimming, and the swim went okay. And I got on the bike, and I just loved it. And I had a great day on the bike, and I had a great run. And I would not have believed that you could train for an Ironman the way we did. I wouldn't have thought that would work based on what I'd done for years beforehand. So it really has changed an awful lot. And I think that's a very good way to do it, to have that intensity and the harder sessions, and have a small block of the longer stuff closer to the race. It's much less intrusive on your life. Now, maybe that works because we have a lot of endurance from before.
Well, that's what I was going to ask actually, was, do you think were the miles banked from the years previous and the consistency over the years help with the likes of maybe a block like that you've done? 4 weeks is very, very short, but then the consistency that you had going into Chattanooga obviously played into your hands in terms of your level of fitness and endurance coming into Vitoria.
I definitely think that's part of it. And I don't think it still isn't something I'd get a beginner to do. If there was a beginner coming in to do an Ironman, I'd just get them training long and steady and get as many miles in, because you need a different sort of fitness or strength as a beginner. But I think for anyone that's done a couple of Ironmans using that type of training methodology, the 5, 6, 7 hours, and if it's gone okay for them up to that point, I would definitely change and try what we did. It really opened my eyes. I would not have believed that if you had sat down and told me, I would have put money against it being successful. Right up until the minute that I started that race, as fit as we were in the weeks and months before, I would not have thought it would translate to a 9-hour day. Yeah. Not in a million years.
And so you qualified in Vitoria in 2025 for Nice.
Yeah, we both qualified. We both raced and we both qualified. So Ash got her Kona slot and I got the Nice slot.
And how did your day pan out, Ash, in Spain?
A bit like Rob's. I was really nervous on the start line. I think that's the most nervous we've been, because you're looking at it going, we have not trained for this. We don't deserve to be here. We're just like a pair of spoofers going, let's train for a half and just jump into a full. I think, but we were really it's the most nervous I've seen us. I remember saying it to Paul Kay as well, because I remember him talking at the start, and it kind of how good he was and how much it kind of calmed me down a lot. The way he starts saying things, and I'm one of those people, if someone tells me it's going to be okay, I know, okay, I'll take that on board. It's going to be okay. And I remember him talking and saying, if whatever he said, I can't even remember the actual words, but you can imagine the kind of things he was saying on the start line. And I think some of it is nearly designed to make you nervous, isn't it? Like, whoa, this is epic. But then some of it is like, you have to remember why you're here, and you're lucky to be there. You're so lucky to get to this age and still be able to train like this and do these things, you know? Like, there was a huge amount of gratitude just kind of came over me at the start. And then I got in the water, and that wasn't a great day, but I got through the swim, and at least it was a wetsuit swim. But I loved the bike. Victoria Gasteiz is a great course, really good course. The bike just flew by. It was like really enjoyable, a really nice place to be. And then the run, I was kind of just thinking, I'm just getting through this. I really didn't think this was a Kona qualifying day, you know, because when you get off the bike and you start on the run and you're like, God, look, everybody's nearly finished. Everybody's out here ahead of me. Like, and that's just what it felt like. So I was just getting through it, not really thinking there was any chance of a Kona qualifier, whether we deserved it or not. I just thought I'll be lucky if I get one, but it would be all down to luck, just pure luck. I think that's all I thought it was going to be if I did.
Well, luck and plenty of miles in the legs and a strong determination to cross that finish line.
Yeah, I think, like, I know what you were saying about the volume and training, but I think there's a few factors. One is you're getting older. You're not going to cope with 30 hours. You just aren't. No matter how great you think you are, you're not going to cope unless you're a full-time athlete with 30-something hours training at the age of 54. And then I think there's a part of you that, well, for me, the years I didn't do Ironman was because I didn't want to spend all my time training. Like, I love running, but I started to resent like 7 and 8 hour bike rides. I was like, this is not what I want to be doing all day. So, and then I think it depends on what type of athlete you are as well. Some of us like big volume and some of us don't. Like, as a runner, I was never a big volume person. So I think there's a lot of factors. And then, like I said, you're riding Victoria Gasteiz and you're like, I don't deserve to be here. I've not trained for a full, you know, and you're nervous because you've forgotten what that feeling of suffering is like. You assume that suffering is absolutely, definitely going to happen. So then on the day when it doesn't, it's a big bonus and you're full of this gratitude that, well, I'm not sick or I'm not falling over or I haven't got a broken leg. So just keep moving. Expect the worst.
Expect the worst and aim for the best. You mentioned there, Ash, that you kind of began to resent the 8-hour bike rides, you know, and that the training was kind of taking over your life. But is there a session now, you know, that you secretly hate doing, but know that you can't skip, but across swim, bike or run? If there was to pick one thing that you're like, I really just don't want to do it.
Long swims in the cold. Long swims in the cold are just so hard. I just mentally find them hard and physically find them hard, you know? And once I go to the pool and I get in and I'm like an hour or so in, I'm probably feeling okay, but I do dread long swims. And then if it's outdoors and it's cold, I'm like, just even now it gives me shivers. I didn't feel like that in Kona when you were getting in with no wetsuit and the water is warm and it's lovely and it's so different.
Yeah. And Rob, then, is there a session that you absolutely hate doing but know that you can't skip it?
I don't think so. I just like training. I think for a long time I liked training more than I liked racing. I didn't want to race. I'd sort of fallen out of love with racing for a number of years. I'd had a couple of bad experiences of either getting sick just before a big race when you put 6 months into it, or I'd gone and done a race where I was probably in the best shape I'd ever been in. I think it was a PB by a long way, and there was a huge amount of drafting in the race, and I felt it cost me a Kona slot. And I felt like I'd put so much in the previous 8 or 9 months, and then to have it taken away by something that was out of my control felt very... I found it very difficult to sort of go back and race after that. And I'd had a couple of races, like I said, where I did go back, and then I got sick twice before I raced. So I'd had this, and I think it was the problem with Ironman for me was you had this big, long build-up, and I stopped doing shorter races. So I'd have 6 months leading up to one race, and if something goes wrong, it was like, that's a whole 6 months gone. Or if I had a bad race, it's like it's a whole 6 months gone and there's nothing to show for it. Whereas if you have 3 or 4 good races on the way to it and then race day isn't great, it's like, well, listen, I've had a great season of racing. So I think I've learned that not banking your whole year around one big target is really important for me anyway. And I found it's a much better way to do it. And I enjoy the racing much more now. But there's not much that I don't like in training. Probably my least favorite is the very short, hard intervals. I'm a little bit lazy. I'd rather go out and ride my bike for 4 or 5 hours and just tool around and stop and have coffee. These puking, juicing intervals, I tend to avoid them. But I think, like I've seen over the last year and a half, the huge impact they've had on fitness, probably because I never did enough of them before. I'm definitely sold on doing them. But yeah, they'd be my least favorite, but I'm getting to enjoy them, I suppose.
In terms of actually your World Championship race season, last season, so Rob, you raced in Nice at the last men's only race. Ash, you raced in Kona, and then you both went to Marbella. So talk us through maybe what it was like the build up to those World Championship events, because Aisling, Nice was a month before Kona. But so obviously you were trying to get your training in whilst also supporting Rob as he's tapering for Nice, and Victoria was only in July. So give us a little snapshot into what life was like as a couple, both trying to race at your best at a World Championship. And I don't mind who takes what part or where you start. And also, sorry, the fact that you both work together, have a really busy business with Wheelworx, 3 bike shops. You're obsessed with dogs and rescue dogs. There's grandchildren, there's children. Life is really busy outside of triathlon. So give us a little sneak insight into what life was like, once you qualified, and then that build up to maybe Rob's race in Nice, and then, your own race in Kona, and just jump in and out between the two of you, maybe just to answer that, if you could.
Okay. So there's one thing I think that we both probably naturally fall into, and last year was a really good example of it. We're both very, very similar in terms of we eat the same type of food, we go to bed at the same time, we like structure in our day.
Do you argue over who fills the dishwasher?
No.
Who fills the dishwasher?
Both of us.
Whoever is standing beside us.
Just reset at night where we both fill and unload the dishwasher.
Yeah.
It's like reset the kitchen. We both do that. Get ready for the next day. I think we have all these rituals that make it easier to train. Yeah. Like even you mentioned the dishwasher. That's something we do together. It's so romantic. But yeah, there's always a reset at night where you just tidy up a bit and then you get all your stuff ready for the next day. We both do that, don't we? Like even down to the nutrition and the clothes for after and the clothes from before and the clothes for swimming and all that stuff. We kind of have all these routines. So we do help each other a lot just by virtue of the fact that we both automatically do these things, don't we?
Yeah. And I think another really big thing is last year we did it to an extreme level, but we probably do it to an extent all the time. Like you were talking about all the complications in life, and they are all there, but there's ways that you can reduce every other controllable complication. Like we didn't go out and eat. Maybe once a month we'd go out and eat instead of going out regularly, and we didn't go to cinemas, or we didn't, and everything that wasn't either important enough for work or for training or for family just didn't happen. And everything became very regular and routine. So it's very easy to make sure that the same things happen every day because the routine is there every day. And I know what Ash is going to do, and she knows what I'm going to do. And we train together. Like it's really easy to train together in the pool because it doesn't matter what speed you are. You're never more than 25 meters apart. And the turbo is the same. We do a lot on the turbo. And then when we're running, we're either running easy together or we're running intervals, and you do that on a track or we're doing hill repeats or whatever. So we train together. So it's very easy to have all of the things that we both have to get done. And we do most of those things together, and we simplify as much as we can outside of that. So if I could work from home on a given day and get more work done because I'm not in chatting to people all day in the shop, I'd stay at home and I'd do a day's work rather than it taking me 2 or 3 days to get, a lot of paperwork done or something. So we just tried to simplify everything as much as we could last year. Got to bed early, and it was just routine. And we both liked that. So it wasn't like you're sacrificing anything or giving up anything. We both quite liked the routine and the regularity of things and knowing what's going to happen each day at the same time. There's a little bit of a strop sometimes when we're going to bed early and Ash wants to stay up late and watch the rugby and just falling asleep on the couch. But apart from that, no, I think simplifying our life around everything else made a big difference to it.
But then even Nice, yeah. So the practicalities, I suppose. In Nice, yeah, you were tapering and I was still trying to train But the good thing about it was Nice was great swim training for Kona, because I could get in, you know, and swim in like water that was warm and practice without the wetsuit, because you can't really do that here in Ireland. You'd last 5 minutes without a wetsuit trying to swim around in it. But it was great swim practice, wasn't it? Because even I did their swim thing that they do on the course. I can't remember, it was a French name, but
Joanne can pronounce it.
That was really good.
I'll have to look it up. I know it's the Hoala swim in Kona, but I can't remember what they call it. Was the Bas d'Ange you swam in? The Bas d'Ange swim. So the Bay of Angels, named after the angel sharks.
Oh, okay.
There's no sharks in that water.
You didn't mention that. Kona, like, you have to do it. It's not like, you know, it's a racy type event, but you're not wearing a wetsuit. And so that was good practice. But I couldn't really train on the bike over there. It was quite difficult because you're in a city and you've got the little bike path on the promenade, which you're going 12k an hour on that thing, you know, because there's so many people. And I did try and pedal out of the city one day, but that was a disaster. And so that was kind of hard, but I found a place that was doing spin classes. So I just signed up for all their spin classes all day long. I'd be going in and out and they're looking at me doing 4 spin classes in a day to try and get 3 hours of riding, you know, whatever it was. But well, we had the same coach as well. Billy Harris, Vanilla Languages partner, is our coach. So like even the training is you know, more or less similar.
Yeah,
you know,
kind of, we can do it together.
Same number of swims, bikes and runs, but they are different because I won't pedal outdoors and you do all yours outdoors. And
what happens if there's an argument at home though? Say like Rob doesn't fill the dishwasher properly. How do you separate state and church?
Well,
how do you separate like life as life partners, business partners, or what if something happens in the shops and there's an argument, or there's like, how do you get that balance? Because you guys you're intertwined completely from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. Very unlike an awful lot of other couples, even though couples will train together because they'll be working separate jobs. But like you guys are.
But well, he is in the shop more than me. I'd be at home more than he.
Still though, like, you know, if you're dealing with an issue in the shop and Rob is saying spend the money and you're saying don't spend the money, and
I'm always saying spend the money.
No, but how do you compartmentalize that? Like, then, you know, when you get to the training point, it's like, okay, that argument is forgotten about because we both know Billy has set a session for us to do and we both need to work together to get this done, or to get the best out of ourselves. We need each other.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't actually argue very often.
Come on.
There's probably.
You see, I'm always right. So
that was a great answer, Aisling.
Yeah, I think we've learned over the years to disagree a bit better and get through it quite quickly. It very rarely turns into an argument that we wouldn't talk for a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe once a year you'd have a meltdown that something like that had happened. But I think that's something else that we just learned that we had to work on. Because years ago, I would have thought, oh, this is great, we never argue. And then you realize, we never argue because we don't talk about the things that are problems. We just ignore them and they just become bigger problems. So we've learned to, I think, try and deal with that stuff and talk a bit better. And we're both probably quite different in the way we deal with things. So I'd be a real projects type person, and Ash is probably similar. So when you sort of see a challenge there, it's like, oh, let's see if we can get better at doing that as well. We probably leaned into trying to do that, but it definitely, I don't think it's something that happens without working at it. Whereas I would have thought it did. I just thought, oh yeah, listen, we never argue. And then you realize, yeah, we never argue because we never talk about the things that are problems. But, you know, when you realize actually there's ways that you can go about learning how to fix that. We both quite enjoy that. And I think just getting better at the communication so that it doesn't turn into a fight maybe. And
also getting to just go out and cycle your bike as well and enjoy the good endorphins of actually the fight is forgotten because now you're out on your bike together or you're running together, or there's a bigger focus. So the petty little things can be put aside because the bigger picture is.
Yeah, but I think there's very little of those things because I think we're so similar in so many ways that there's very little friction. like you said about the dishwasher, it's like we both just get up and do it together, or we clean up together, or we do things together. So there's very little friction at all in those things. So they don't turn into arguments really, unless I don't load the dishwasher correctly.
Well, this is where the argument happens. You might be loading the dishwasher. If you put the plate in the wrong place, you're not getting your breakfast in the morning. Anyway,
when I see Ash taking the plates back out of the dishwasher, I know it's time to vacate the room.
Well, there's your way and then there's my way, you see. That's the way it is, isn't it? But let's come back to the racing. So you had obviously raced at the World Championships before, Rob, but you hadn't, Ash. So Kona, first time ever racing in Kona. Talk to me about the experience. And Rob, I know you've written a brilliant blog on the Wheelworx website as well, to give it a plug in case we don't get to talk fully about your race day itself. But you ended up with a great result by comparison to what you expected when you were coming out of the water, with Owen Martin a couple of seconds behind. I want to focus on Aisling's race a little bit, because Kona was a first time racing over there for you at the IRONMAN World Championship. Talk me through your day. Did it live up to expectations? Did the whole thing live up to expectations? Did you do the underpants run?
No, it surpassed expectations by about 4,000,000%. So no, it was great. I think after I qualified, I very quickly realized I was not going to get through a swim in the right amount of time if I didn't do something drastic. Because I've always been a weak swimmer, or what I considered a weak swimmer, and I probably just never swam enough to get much better. But I just knew it was going to be hard. I knew the swim was going to be hard, and I was in danger of not making a cutoff. And that to me would have been devastating, like so devastating. So I did a lot of work with Peter again in the Irish Sea, getting in and swimming around and trying to work on the open water things. And like I did open water stuff here, and they went very badly. So even when I flew out to Kona, now the one in Nice went okay, and that was without a wetsuit, and I enjoyed it. But you're still thinking, like, Kona can be a hard swim. Do you know? It can be really hard, you know? So when I went to Kona, we went out 2 weeks beforehand because I needed to swim a lot. This is what I thought. I need to swim a lot. I need to get really good, really quick out there and just be so used to the experience. And I fried myself swimming the first week. Fried myself. I was
sunburn or just fatigue?
No, just like swimming all the time, like just too much. But anyway, I did a few bikes out on the Queen K, and they didn't go great either. Like I was terrified of that wind, and oh my God, there's traffic, and there's like the heat, and everything was like, so even on race day, I still thought there's a chance you will not make it out of this water on time. There's a chance this isn't going to go the way you think it will. And I was so nervous. Like, you have pictures of me beforehand. I was absolutely crapping myself. Did not know what was going to happen. But I got into the water, and I remember, I don't know if you remember, Joanne, but they said to us there was a turtle at the edge.
The honu, yeah. The honu,
and
under the seawall, yeah.
Yeah, and things like that where you're going, these are signs that you need to, you know, cop on and enjoy this. You really, like, if, you know, as soon as I got into the water and I realized the conditions were really bad for someone like me who's not a great swimmer, it was really hard conditions. And I just thought, you cannot spend the next hour and 40 whatever cracking yourself. You have to enjoy this. You just absolutely have to put all your fears of dying aside. Like, I'm even thinking about it now. You have to just, even if you are really think you're going to die and the chop is going to kill you and the swell is going to take it away, just stop and try and enjoy it. And I was determined. So when I was in and I was swimming and it didn't seem great, I just said, I'm not going to spend this whole time being afraid. Whatever happens, it happens. And I just swam. And then we had the experience with the dolphins swimming under us. And even a photographer swimming under you, you're still going, this might never happen again, an experience like this. And it has certainly never happened before. So I get out of the water. I was probably close to 150 one night, something like that. Yeah. And I just had a grin on my face, and I heard your voice there, and I heard Paul Kay, and I heard these other things, and I thought, this is going to be a good day. It's going to be a really good day because I survived, and not that I survived, I enjoyed that, you know, which wasn't on my bingo card for the few months beforehand. I just spent worrying about that moment, and I just loved it. And then I got on the bike, and I just loved that too. I started pedaling around and I thought, you're out on the Queen K. And like to most people, it's probably just a big boring motorway. But I was like, this is iconic. Every single second of this is something you've seen photos of or, seen amazing photos of. And you're like, this is just unreal. And I couldn't even put it into words, but I just loved it. I spent the whole bike with a big grin on my face. And when you were saying to me later about, the conditions were bad or it was very hot or whatever it was, and I felt nothing but joy the whole time. I loved it. And Billy, the coach, had said to me, don't do anything nuts for the first 120K. You have to just keep it, steady. And 120K in, I felt great. And I've never had that experience in an Ironman in my life because I don't tend to enjoy the bike or I find it hard or whatever, but I loved it. I came in off the bike, big grin on my face, saw Billy who happened to be there and saw you and just loved it. And then headed out on the run and I had a great day on the run too. I just smiled and high-fived people the whole time and I chatted to people on the run and it was just the most amazing experience because every corner you're thinking, this is iconic. You're running up Palani or whatever you're doing, you should have a smile on your face and you should be loving this. And I really was. I just loved it. And then heading out to the energy lab. And you were kind of so fearful of what you thought was going to happen down there. You thought there was, the fires on hell, I just loved it. And it was probably getting dark and getting cooler. But again, I just thought this is an amazing place to be. Every single second of this is incredible. And I just loved it. Really loved every second of it. And yeah.
And if you had to pick one highlight of the experience, whether that was pre-race, post-race, the race itself, to sum up your Kona experience?
Definitely the swim, because I enjoyed it and I don't generally enjoy swimming, as I've said before. No, definitely the water is unique, really is. It's an amazing experience. The whole week of it, the whole 2 weeks was incredible, wasn't it? And we were determined to enjoy all that Kona has to offer because it's like nothing else. It's, such a unique experience, something on every day and you're talking to people and it's great.
And then Rob, you obviously had raced in Kona previously, so you had plenty of insight as to what Aisling was going to potentially experience, but we did have high heat and humidity, there was rain, difficult biking conditions, difficult swimming conditions, and it was very, very warm. Completely contrasted to your race day in Nice.
Yeah, I think I went into Nice very differently to how I'd gone into Vitoria-Gasteiz. I think that fear in Vitoria-Gasteiz of, I was so worried before the start, that was gone completely. I felt really good going into Nice. And it felt very much like a celebration. It's like, this is the prize. Just getting here today is the prize. And I had zero expectations. I had zero expectations of getting a place or being top 100 or 200 or 300 in the age group. I didn't care. It was like, I just want to go out and have a good day and enjoy the experience. And we did the practice swim and that went really well. And I did the swim and was a little bit slower than I'd hoped to be. But you're talking, I think I was 116 and I'd hoped to be about 112. So you're looking at it going, who cares? It's going to be a 10 or 11 hour day. It doesn't make any difference. And I got onto the bike and the bike course was just epic. And I had a plan early in the week of how I was going to ride it. And I was chatting to Billy and he had warned me that there's a couple of the athletes that he had worked with previously had gone out with a similar plan to what I had intended on doing, riding moderately hard on the first climb, which is long, on the second climb, which is long. It's 22 or 23K or something. And he said they were on their knees by the time they got to the last climb, which is 10 or 11K. So I thought, okay, I'm going to back off on that long climb. I'm going to ride easy. So I did that and was really conservative on the climb and then started pushing afterwards and passed plenty of people afterwards. And I think I probably went a little bit too conservatively overall on the bike. But I got off the bike and I just had one of the best runs I've ever had in an Ironman. I came out of T2 and if you had said pick a number, for a really good run, I thought, okay, if I can break 3:30, it's a long time since I've gone faster than 3:30 in an Ironman marathon. If I could break 3:30, I'd be happy. And I came out and the first kilometre was about 4:40. And I thought, whoa, we're feeling good and this is moving well. And I kept on going at exactly the same pace. And I looked at my watch at the second kilometre and it was 4:50. And I went, I didn't feel that slowing down. And then the next kilometre was like 5:05. And I went, oh, this is going to just be a slow day. And it sort of settled at about that. And at about, I'd say about 10K in, I passed Ash again. She was on the course with me folks and some friends. And then I came up to the start finish area where there was thousands of people and they were screaming and shouting. And I decided to high five everyone as I was running through. And I was running back after doing the turnaround after high fiving about 400 people. And I looked down and I was doing about a 4:20 kilometer. And I thought, well, that's a bit fast. And I backed off a little bit, but the pace never fell off fully after that. And I just got quicker and quicker, not quicker than 4:20s. I slowed down a little bit from that pace, but I went through, I ran a negative split in the end, but I did not have any pain. I did not have any soreness. And, you know, during an Ironman run, you're constantly waiting for it all to get catastrophic. You know, at some stage, it's going to hit the fan and things are going to hurt. And it just didn't. I got to 20K and I'm doing a check-in and going, yeah, nothing really hurts yet. So I'm tired. I'd like to sit down, but, you know, it's all going okay. And then I got to 25K and it's still okay. And I got to 30K and it's still okay. And all around me, you can see everyone falling apart and everyone is slowing down and I'm speeding up. I'm going quicker and quicker. And I hit 35K and I'm still going quicker. And at about 37K, it was like somebody drove over me with a bus and just parked it on top of me. And it was like everything hurt all at once. But it's like, it was later than 37K because it was after I turned around at the airport. So it was 4.5K to go or something like that. And you're sort of going, okay, well, I can hurt myself for 4.5K. So it was, I think on the Garmin, I ran at 3:29:40. Ironman said I ran 3:30:01 or something like that. So I wasn't impressed with your timing splits. But apart from that, no, it was a great day.
I reckon your GPS was off.
Yeah. But it was like there's something about finishing a race after a really good run, even if you're a bit disappointed with the bike or the swim, and they were minor disappointments. It's like, yeah, well, if it had been a perfect day, I might have gone a bit quicker, you know. And when you come off the back of a really good run, I was buzzing for weeks afterwards. It was just the best feeling, and you're sort of going, okay, well, if I can get back to running like that, then I feel like I can start to be competitive again at the racing. But yeah, Nice was an unreal experience, but it wasn't a patch on Kona. Like even being in Kona as a spectator. And it was funny because after the week in Nice, we very much thought Ironman have got this right in terms of the Nice thing. It's such a shame. It's gone. You know, they've made the wrong decision. They should have kept it. But then you're back in Kona and you're going, oh man, this is so different. Like, and it's like Ash said, it's not like twice as good or 3 times as good. It's like 500 million times as good. It is so unique. The atmosphere and the way the island feels and the people and swimming with dolphins, and you're sitting there having your coffee in the morning looking out the water and the dolphins are jumping in front of you, or you're swimming and there's turtles underneath you, or like there's just so much of it is so unique to Hawaii. And the fact that you're out there for 2 weeks before it, like you don't go to any other Ironman 2 weeks before or even a week before. You go out 3 or 4 days before you do the race and you go home. Like there's nothing like Kona. And like when we were chatting before we went out, the week before we went, Ash was there going, okay, I'm one and done. I'm never doing this again. The training is too hard. Everything's too hard. And then we got out and we had the week in Kona and she's going, oh, this is a lot of fun actually. And she did the race and it's like, okay, we're coming back next year, but you're racing. I'm going to watch. And then like 3 days later, it's like, I want to come back here again. I want to race again. Like it is just, it gets under your skin like nothing you can imagine. It is unreal.
Yeah.
It's like being that stick of rock again. You break her open and it's Kona all the way through the middle instead of an end dot.
It is a very unique place. Like it really, really is. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere can compare to it. And I imagine that even Ironman 70.3 that takes place out there is very, very different to any other Ironman 70.3 that happens around the world. And then you add in the World Championship machine that rolls out the red carpet for the athletes and the spectators and how the community comes together. And yeah, it is unreal. So how do you go from, I know how I went, from Nice, Kona, Marbella. How do you reset then after the excitement and the brilliant time you had in Kona? Okay, so you've had a bit more recovery time now, Rob. Okay, you've had the travel and stuff, but you're headed into Marbella. And then Kona, was it 3 or 4 weeks after Kona we were in Marbella? I can't actually remember.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, so then how do you reset? You come home, try and get the body back moving again, get your head in the game and go out to Marbella.
I'd actually gone to Kona with the intention of, I'm going to be out here for 2 weeks. I'm going to do a huge training block. And I realized really quickly that I didn't want to miss any of Aisling's experience. So I wanted to be there when she was training. I wanted to be there when she was swimming in the morning. I wanted to be there for the underpants run and everything. So I just sort of parked training and I did whatever sessions she was doing. I did them, but they were all short because you're starting to taper. And I just enjoyed the experience. So I knew coming back from Kona, you've got to travel there. I had the 2 weeks of some training and then you had the week of travel and recovery when you come home. So I knew there wasn't going to be an awful lot I could do for Marbella. It was going to be very much just go and enjoy the experience. And so we did a couple of weeks training when we come home. And again, there's no real difficulty for us getting back into the routine of training because I think we both really enjoy that, you know. So as soon as you come home, you maybe have a day of resetting after crazy flights, but the easiest way to get your body clock for us is get up in the morning, go for a swim or go for a run or go back to the gym or whatever. So we got back into that in between the two of them and we went to Marbella. And I think Marbella had started out the year as being this big target that we wanted to go and try and race as hard as we could and be as competitive as we could. But I think we both realised that after the 2 world champs that it was going to be just go out and do what you can and enjoy the day, you know. So it definitely wasn't the performance that I would have hoped for in January. But when I looked at it afterwards, it's like, listen, you've done Nice, you've been to Kona, you're getting to do Marbella. And it's like if somebody had given you that in January, you would have taken it with both hands and said, thanks very much. I don't care how the race goes. This is just the most unreal experience. And it really was for that 3 months to get to do 3 races like that and to be able to go and do them and take that opportunity when it's there. Because there's plenty of people that you talk to that just can't for work reasons or life reasons or whatever, you know. So to be able to go and experience those things and do them together it's incredible. And Marbella was great because we got to watch each other race. So I got to watch Ash race on the Saturday and then she got to watch me race on the Sunday. So you're very much a part of each other's experience for the whole thing, you know. And again, I had a great run in Marbella, disappointing bike again. I think I went around it at Ironman pace, but it meant I had run legs. So I had a great run and really enjoyed it. But geez, Ironman can put on a show at the World Champs.
The bike course was tough though. I mean, all the feedback we got was that the bike course was very tough.
It was. We had done it the year before to sort of get an idea what it was like. So there was no surprises in it. I think I had just, over the years, I've become quite cautious on the bike and I definitely underbiked in Marbella in terms of, I went way too easy compared to what I probably should have done. I'm afraid of blowing up and, you know, how bad is it going to be in a 70.3? It's not like an Ironman where you're going to be walking for 4 hours or something like that if you have a really catastrophic blow up. Like if you blow up in an hour and a half, you go from running 4.5 minute Ks to 5s, you know. So I think I need that.
World, not in mine.
I think that's something I'd like to get better for next year is push it a bit harder on the bike and see where those limits are. But it's really nice to be coming back. Like we never did 70.3 distance before. I think we'd done 1 or 2 in the 10 or 15 years we've been racing.
We've never done one.
We've never done 70.3, but we've done a couple of halves at home, maybe 2. So to discover that distance is really enjoyable, and like to discover that you can train for it without those 5 and 6 hour bike rides. And again, then you got all the locations and stuff to visit with it as well. So it's like you discover a whole new world of triathlon that you hadn't enjoyed before. So the 70.3 stuff is a real buzz.
And how did you recover post Kona then, Aisling, you know, coming back into needing to get motivated again? I know you're quite motivated anyway, but to get motivated, to go training, to get ready for Marbella, it's quite difficult after an Ironman, but then add in the World Championship experience and everything that goes with it, the travel and life and everything. And was it hard, or did you just fall back into the routine and pick it up?
The travel is the hardest bit. I don't do well with jet lag. So I didn't sleep at all when we were in Kona. And then I didn't sleep for about 2 weeks afterwards. Like it was just, I found that the hardest because physically I didn't feel that fried after Kona. Mm-hmm. So I was wanting to get back to training as soon as we came home, really. But you see, I think when we set out with the World Champs thing, it was Nice, Kona, Marbella. We very much saw all 3 as a project, as one whole thing. So until we got through both of those days in Marbella, this project wasn't finished. This Nice, Kona, Marbella project
very smart way of looking at it.
So it was always, and even when I finished in Marbella, well, I mean, it was a tough swim. I was enjoying the bike till I got a puncture. And like everyone thinks it's hilarious that I don't know how to change one, but sure, I've never had to. And then I finished, and then he was racing the next day. And until he finished racing and got that medal around his neck, it felt like the project wasn't complete. So there was Nice, Kona, 2 days in Marbella, And then we'd done it. We had got through this, what we'd set out to do. So I think when we came back from Kona and went straight back into training, it wasn't as hard as we thought it would be, in the sense of the project is still ongoing. We need to keep going and keep doing this. And you're probably on a bit of a buzz with all your World Champs merch and, you know, your big flex at the pool with your World Champs bag. And
did you leave anything in the merch store for other people to purchase?
no, I think we emptied the place, didn't we? No, but yeah, no, we bought tons of swag and just loving it. And I've never done that at Ironman events. I just think I'm a runner. I'm never going to wear any of that stuff. I bought everything in Kona, didn't I? Like,
well, I did see photographs on a Slow Twitch article of the two of you with your fabulous Trek bikes. You're not in custom kit, Rob, but it is quite bright. But Ash, you are in full on Zoot colours, full of the kit. World Championship. You know, don't need a tattoo. I have all the gear.
Yeah, totally drank the Kool-Aid. Everything's just...
No, it was precision hydration. Don't get it wrong.
But yeah, I got fully into it. And he was shocked at how fully into the merch I was. But I think, you know, when you go to races, Joanne, and you'll have seen this, you know, for years you're going to these events and then you see these people with a Kona bag and you're like, oh my God, look at that. Like, it's like the bag, the actual bag. So I had this fixation on, I'm going to get my bag today, Rob, when we were in Kona, like, you know, like it was a big event, you know. And I remember like just totally just being in awe of, I got a bag with the World Champs on it. I hadn't even done the event yet. I still have to get through.
Listen, when I go to pick up my bag and I'm not even an athlete, I'm excited. And my little badge with my little thing on it is like, oh, I'm here again. Yeah. You know, it's like I still get excited and hyped up on the hype and everything and the privilege and the gratitude for being there. But
it totally is a huge amount of privilege, and we're so grateful that you're healthy enough to qualify, and you know you've got through us, and yeah.
So I'd love to delve further, but I'm conscious of the time. But what I am going to ask you is, you did a 3-way World Championship in 2025. Are we going to aim for a 2-way in 2026? Another little trip back to the Big Island and maybe to Nice, which you've both been to. They know you by first name in the gym now, Aisling, as well. And you did the running club, the 10K on the Monday night when we were all in the pub. You went off running with the local run club as well to get your training.
They absolutely killed me. What did they call it? A social
run, 10K at 10 pace or something, wasn't it?
4-minute Ks up a hill. Like oh my God, they killed me, the whole lot of them. But anyway, no, it was great to have people to run with in these locations. Like we met them, they're Nice swimmers. We met and their little group, and they invited us along on the run, and great.
So then, in answer to my question, what's the plan for 2026? Do we have a plan?
Okay, so I think for years when I was doing the Kona thing or chasing Kona, we built a whole year around it. And I think what we discovered in the last 2 or 3 years was that if we just pick races that we want to go and do, that's as far as we'll let ourselves build a year around. So we're racing in Florida in May. We're doing 70.3 Gulf Coast, and a week later we're doing Ironman Jacksonville. So it's not an ideal way to go and try and qualify for Kona doing a 70.3 before. And it's not probably the ideal race for either of us who are more climbery types and doing the 2 flattest races on the planet, or 2 of the flattest races on the planet. So we're going to locations, I think, that we want to go and do a race, and we're going for the experience. I will train as hard as I did last year in the hopes of qualifying, but I'm not going to build a year. Like, if we don't qualify, I'm not going to go and immediately enter another Ironman to try and do it.
He says that, Joanne. He says
I know. And we know he can qualify on the back of a good 70.3 distance training plan. And if it doesn't go to plan, Rob, and Aisling qualifies for Kona.
Well, I'll definitely be going into another race. Yeah, we'll definitely be going and doing a European race then after that, I'd say, to try and get a slot.
Aisling, you've been a runner for years, you know, lots and lots of medals, lots of success in running. But when you look back at your triathlon career, particularly both of you, in the journey you've been on, what would you say has, 1, been the highlight, and 2, maybe something that you're most proud of achieving? And it doesn't have to be a race result. It can be anything. But so 1, maybe a highlight, and 2, something that you're most proud of achieving. over the course of that journey since 2008?
I think overcoming the fear around swimming to me was a huge deal. Do you know, when I first started, I had real issues. I didn't know I had issues until I got into the water and kept stopping swimming. But I think overcoming those fears, I worked with a sports psychologist to help me, and he gave me tools to try and help. But if you go away from the sport for a couple of years and come back into it, you find you need to, start redoing all those tools all over again. So I think then getting to Nice and Kona and not being completely terrified is a big deal for me, because the rest I found, it's just fitness. It's just training. Like, you're not afraid you're going to die when you go for a run or even a pedal, because I only pedal indoors. I'm not going to die in there. But like the swim thing I found really hard and still do. But I think overcoming that and just getting through swims and enjoying them is a big deal for me. What about you?
I think the whole last year was a big deal for me. When I did the Kona thing years ago, I know I was very selfish. And I thought that that's sort of what you have to be. You've got to be selfish if you're going to stretch yourself that far. And over the following years, I realized when I saw Ash, if you're ever in our shop, in the big shop, you'll see trophy cabinets all over the place, and they're all full of Ashling's trophies. And you'll see finishers' medals on the wall, and they're all mine. So Ash is a much better athlete. And it took me a long time to realize that you could actually push yourself to being the best version of whatever you were going to be without being so selfish. And I think in the last year, I'd like to think that it was, in the last 2 years, it's much more of a team. The two of us doing things together, training together, supporting each other much more in and out of training. And I got a huge kick out of that. And I never would have believed that you could get as much pleasure out of standing on the sidelines, watching somebody race Kona, as doing it yourself. And that was a huge eye-opener for me. So the whole of last year, doing things together and being a part of Aisling, getting the Kona slot or doing the training or just being there and feeling like I was a part of that, that's probably been the most enjoyable part of the last year. I think that's what you asked, was it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's lovely. It's good, considering we have been joking about fighting over the dishwasher.
Yeah.
It is lovely to hear that, and for other people who are couples who are racing and training, or maybe for people who are racing or training on their own and then their partner is not involved in the sport, I imagine it's probably even more difficult because their whole life outside of the life that they have together, and then trying to get that balance right. So knowing that you can come together as a team and make it work for both of you, I think is it's a great validation for you guys and for what you're doing and what you've achieved, and to go and race in Nice and Kona, to qualify. First of all, the hardest part of doing an Ironman is getting to the start line. We always say it. So, you've had a phenomenal career in the sport and a phenomenal season last year. So I can't wait to see how 2026 pans out. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a lovely journey through your sporting and triathlon career, with a big focus on last year. But thank you for taking the time out. And if anybody wants to read Rob's blog on his Nice race, it's actually very good. It's on Wheelworx.ie on the website there as well. And if you're popping into Wheelworx, tell them Joanne sent you from the podcast. They might give you a discount. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. If you would like to hear more great episodes of the podcast, be sure to check them out on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. There are so many to choose from now, so do dive in. You can follow all of our activities and podcasts on Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram. If you have any feedback or guest suggestions, please email me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. I really would love to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for listening. Stay safe, keep smiling, and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.